All right. Welcome into another episode of the Week 7 recap of the Tiger Minor League Report podcast. I am Rogelio alongside me is Chris Brown and David this evening. And you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartMedia, and Stitcher. And we just got back a little while ago. Actually, we got back earlier this afternoon, just in time to watch the Tigers win today 4-2 over Cleveland. Nice job by the bullpen, everybody getting it done. But I decided to come home early, only not because, of course, the podcast is one part of it too, but it was just nice to able to catch some of the minor league or the Tigers game as a whole. I did not, truthfully, I watched maybe a little bit of the Toledo game, but that was about it. And everything else was just been catching up on. So I started watching games from last couple days, and we were in Erie. We'll get to the Erie recap here in a second because there's plenty to talk about there, including similar opinions about things that we noticed.
Did Raj freeze up on you? Froze up for me.
There's a picture addressing. No, it froze up for me. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, you went.
Yeah, plenty to get to though. We'll be talking about yeah, it was weird. It never really does that. But so yeah, we have plenty to discuss, including our Erie trip, what's going on with Michigan, all sorts of fun stuff. But let's get started with Toledo and Kody Clemens. The call him up chants are now. It's just
that should be his nickname, right?
Yeah, it should be. Yeah,
call him up Clemens.
Yeah, there's a groundswell.
Yeah.
That was a term I heard earlier today when I was watching when I got home after the Tigers game. I watched the Kids in the Hall documentary, and they were talking about groundswell, and that would be the case. Kody Clemens has a groundswell to him right now, and he had how many triples did he have today, Chris? 2?
He had 2 triples the other day, I think. 2 triples on the week. He's got 6 for the year. You don't really necessarily think of him as like, a speed demon, but he's just, triples are sometimes just a matter of luck. But we saw the one the other day. He had was like an inch from a home run. Hit off the top of the wall in dead center field, and then bounced up in the air for like another 2 seconds. So I'm checking now. I think he might lead all of minor baseball in triples.
Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes like it's always fun to see like the different facets of triples because, like you said, Chris, some of them can be like little wall scrapers, but other times like you hit it just in the right place at just the right park, and you're gonna get lucky.
Yeah, the park definitely plays a big part in it. Comerica is a big triples park. So yeah, Clemens actually is second by himself. There are 2 guys. I guess he's third. Mason Wynn and Carson Williams, who are both legitimate prospects, have 7 triples in the year already, and fewer games too. But anyway, yeah, it was basically he was like a one-man offense this week for Toledo. Toledo went 2-4. Where were they playing? Indianapolis. Yeah. But nobody else, I think, had an OPS over like 750 on the week. Jay Myers had 4 RBIs, but it was the Kody Clemens show. 9 for 24, 2 doubles, 2 triples, a home run, 2 walks, 8 RBIs. I mean, the Tigers theoretically know what they're doing. If they thought Kody Clemens could help them win, Kody Clemens would be up. They're not keeping him down to punish him or something like that. Or they're not like messing with service time. They don't think that he can provide them with what they need right now. So I know it's a bummer for him. He's just going to keep putting up numbers, but good for him for not sulking or whatever and actually hitting.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing though. Is like I think we touched on it a couple shows ago with like Wilmer Flores being down in Toledo and such. But like if we call him up, it's like, do you see him being a starter like day one when we call him up? Honestly.
No, not unless somebody gets hurt. That's the thing. Like he really is just an injury replacement, and the people he would be replacing haven't gotten injured yet. We've got to hammer this home as long as we can. But every time we put a highlight of him doing something good, it's call him up Clemens.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing though. It's like it's good to have it's good to see him producing. Yeah, and it's like, but that's the thing. Like we call him up, and he's not going to be getting those consistent at bats, and he's not going to have that that rhythm that he has of like having that daily schedule of, I know that I'm going to come to the park and I'm going to have this regimen, and I know that I'm going to get at least 3 at-bats today, and I can work on all these different swings I have in mind. But yeah, it's nice to see him getting consistent at-bats and producing.
Yeah. Also, go ahead, Chris.
There's just one last thing, Raj, I want to touch on is from the outside, unless we ask the managers, we haven't been down to talk to play manager Lloyd, but we don't know exactly what they're being asked to work on. And what we've talked about before is Kody Clemens is not walking this year, which is a little bit odd because he's always walked a decent amount. And his swinging strike rate is up by like 3% this year from last year. But it almost feels like that's been a good thing for him. He's hitting the ball a lot more consistently this year. He's just swinging more in general and doing more damage. But who knows if they want him to walk more? I don't know. I don't know if they gave him a directive to swing more or if he's just like, yeah, screw this, I'm going to swing. So it's tough to know.
There's one. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I just want to throw it out there that the best number in his 4 minor league seasons is he's hitting 365 on balls in play. So that's pretty elite right now. I don't know if he'd be willing to subdue walks for that type of number, but yeah, I mean 8 walks, that's kind of concerning. But at the end of the day, he's like, when he's hitting the ball, then there's a pretty good chance that he's going to be producing.
Yeah, there's one of the things that I did notice. You guys were mentioning the strikeouts, but I think it seems like maybe it's just me. But when I was looking at Kerry Carpenter, I was doing the article today and finishing up the notes from our live look. His strikeout rate also, he was never, I mean, it was around 20% last year. It's at 30% this year. So maybe it's a philosophy that's changed where they tell him to swing more and be less looking for their pitches. I don't know. Again, until we talk to somebody like Ryan Garco, something along those effects, I think that it could be a philosophy change. Who knows? But I couldn't help but notice that the rates across all 4 affiliates are up.
But yeah, strikeout rates in general. I mean, boy, there are an awful lot of strikeouts in Erie. We'll get to that in a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. You do wonder if almost like part of the development process is they've been telling them to like embrace their roles. Like, okay, you know what? You're just going to be a run producer. Like, I mean, that feels a little old school, but generally speaking, the big movement over the last few years was, okay, get on base and get your pitch to hit and do damage on it. But I wonder if certain guys are like, you know what? Getting on base is great, but you've got the power to do damage and we want you to do damage. And maybe that's what's going on. Maybe there's nothing, it's like 40 games or whatever. Maybe it's just kind of a small sample thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's May, late May baseball. It's like, stuff can always change. They could say like, hey, you've shown that you can really drive the ball. Because like the video we put up on Twitter recently of him having that opposite field double that he absolutely just destroyed off the wall. That was like a very impressive hit in my opinion. But yeah, it's like the coaches could say soon, like we've seen that you have the ability to drive the ball to all fields and really just really start putting the ball in play. But yeah, like let's see if you can start getting on base a little bit more.
And that's what Detroit, a lot of looking at OPSs. We had somebody DM me earlier about some of the OPSs across the system, and that is definitely the walk rate thing. The walk rate is a concern too with a lot of that. But getting back to Toledo this week, they were down in Indianapolis and the playing the Pirates AAA affiliate. And as far as how they went in terms of a team wise, it was not a good week as we mentioned earlier. Only winning 2 games in the series. They split a doubleheader on the 19th after rain. Rain played a part in everything. And no, Jeremy, the ticker's new. I just put that up. I decided that it'd just be a good idea to have the ticker up, and it didn't dawn me that I could have done it before. But actually, correction, not just fact of pure laziness, or maybe because I get worried about.
There are like a dozen different templates you've got set on there, and some of them have the ticker going across, and some of them have other stuff. And
yeah,
I don't know if you can like change what the ticker says on the fly. That would always be fun. But
yes, we can. I can always change on the fly. But I just thought about it. Like,
shut up your face.
Like we could put team lead or team. Like for example, Kody Clemens leads all the minor leaguers in hits with 50, and then Cole Keith, by the way, is 46. He's second, and Kerry Carpenter's third with 40. So, but stuff like that. That's actually a really good idea for some of the suggestions. But let's get back to again. There is a new mud hen, by the way, that came aboard, and that's Brendan Davis, the former Angel prospect who hit 30 home runs last year. It was the Angels minor league player of the year. And then they had him for a roster crunch. They had to cut him. And as far as he was sent to Toledo right away, and rightfully so, because right now, in terms of the outfield situation, Badu's down right now. You see a lot more Dane Myers playing the outfield versus the infield, where he played a lot of first base at Erie, but he's been playing the outfield all week. But I like the move for Davis. Like, the more I find out about him, I know Scott Bentley mentioned him, and I did a little bit of research on him today. It's a good bat. He can play multiple positions. So, but as far as in terms of getting some game action, I had not seen him yet in game action as of yet. Did he play today?
I watched him a little bit today as you were driving. It was I had the luxury of watching videos and cutting stuff up while Raj was driving for 4.5 hours. He went 2 for 4 today, I think, with an RBI double, and he's got an interesting batting stance. It's almost like a video game stance. Like, it's closed. I don't know how to describe it, but it's not a stance you see much anymore. He's kind of tall and thin, but yeah, I mean, it was a lot of kind of new faces in Toledo this week. From Brendan Davis, Sam Howard, I think, made his debut this week.
Dane Myers is with Toledo as well.
Dane Myers, but he's been up and down a little bit. But yeah, he's up there. Trace Thompson made his debut, I think, with Toledo this week. Dario Gardea, Garrett Hill. It was just a lot of player movement. And this is all like a concatenation from the injuries in Detroit are just kind of cascading down to Toledo and Erie and West Michigan now. So
it's interesting to see. Sorry to cut you off, Chris, but yeah, it's interesting to see Trace Thompson in the system now because, I don't know if you guys remember, circa 2018-19 when he was getting groomed to be like the future center fielder for the White Sox. It's like he certainly has a lot of athletic potential. Clay Thompson's little brothers hopefully he does pretty decent in the system.
Yeah, no, I remember him as, I don't know if he was a top 100 prospect. He was definitely a well-regarded prospect. God, it's been like a dozen years ago now, I think. But that's how you know that somebody just loves baseball, right? That here's a dude who's comes from a family of other athletes. I don't think he's necessarily hurting for money if he had to. He's not playing for that. He's playing because he loves baseball and he loves. Was he 31 now? He's been on probably a dozen different teams, if not more. And still out there grinding, trying to get his shot. And it's not a bad situation for him, as Raj mentioned. That outfield is kind of a walking wounded right now. You got Reyes out, you got Badu out again. One more injury, and it could be Trace Thompson time in Detroit. Yeah,
I mean, and actually to really kick off the Toledo section, if you don't mind, there's one detail I want to touch on.
All right.
Yeah, and that's Garrett Hill. And it's like, I know that I'm going to say this line a couple times, but Raj, you mentioned it last week that box scores don't tell the whole story. And I think that story with Garrett Hill tonight. 5 innings, 3 runs, 5 strikeouts. And if he hadn't had that 5th inning, then we would have talked about that being a fantastic outing. But I thought it was really nice to see, first start in Toledo. He really took the bull by the horns with it and really just went after hitters. I think in the first inning, he struck out 2 of 3. It was just nice to see him going after guys in the new league. And yeah, it's nice to see him pitching good.
Yeah, that was another one that I was fortunate enough to be able to watch a little bit as we were driving home. And yeah, he looked exactly in that first inning. It was 9 pitches, 2 strikeouts, and a ground out. He looked exactly like he's been looking in West Michigan and Erie over the last 2 years. He was a little bit wilder than usual. I think he walked 4 guys. And, saying wildness is kind of out of character for him. And he gave up a home run, which he doesn't do a ton of. But it kind of reminded me of Bo Brisky's first start with Toledo earlier this year, where he made a couple mistakes and paid for them and was not entirely consistent with his command. And you know what? We heard that with Wilmer Flores when he debuted in Erie. Again, we'll get to that. But sometimes guys can get nervous a little bit when they're making their debut at a newer level. You never know. You're facing these different level of hitters who are supposed to be better, right? And so you just maybe a little too careful. You're worried about them, punishing you, and then they do actually once, and then you start to question yourself and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, I think 5 innings, 3 runs. I think 2 were earned. Is that right?
Yeah.
A pretty solid AAA debut from a guy that we've talked about for a few years now, and he seems to be kind of on the precipice of the big leagues.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you really go into depth on his start, it's like I think he got just a tad bit rattled by the home run in the fifth. But yeah, it's like you look at those first 4 innings, and he like all 4 of those innings, he was setting him down 1, 2, 3, and it's like you mentioned, Chris, like when it's your first start in a new league, new team, you're gonna have new teammates. Like literally, everything around you is different aside from the game you're playing. So like just the littlest thing might just be that needle in the haystack, or like the straw that broke the camel's back. Excuse me. Yeah, it's
the needle that broke the haystack's back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The other debut that I didn't even notice, and I actually texted Rogelio about this last night. He had to drive home through a monsoon. There were flash flood warnings, and then I don't know if we didn't tweet it out, but like there was a wall of water coming down in front of my hotel room door. It's ridiculous. But yeah, as we were sitting there, in our separate rooms doing our thing, I noticed that Dario Gardea had been called up to Toledo, which was kind of wild because he hasn't pitched in Erie. He jumped Erie. He was down in Lakeland or West Michigan, and he had a nice debut. He gave up a hit to his first batter, a double, but then 2 strikeouts and a ground out. Just kind of, and he's got a legit big league breaking ball. It's a slider that's tight and with late movement under the hands of a lefty. So, fastball's like 92, 94. And he also threw a changeup. So I don't know. He's like a random under the radar relief only guy. So they're not really prospects per se, but a couple bounces here, a bad breaks, and the next thing you know, Dario Gardea is in the bullpen, and everybody's going, "Who's this guy?" Well, we saw him, and he looked pretty good.
Yeah, especially because you pulled up his spin information from last year that's over at minor league splits, and he really has really good spin rates on its curve and its slider. And he's from Mexico, which and the Tigers don't really have a lot of relievers or pitchers from Mexico in their system, traditionally speaking. So it was good to see. And one of the things about what I like about him too is the fact that he can throw that slider away from lefties is pretty good. Excuse me, not a slider. I think it's a curve, or it just looks like something off speed away from left-handed batters. And he's a guy who could really at some point, again, the way everything's going right now, the Tigers, by the way, tomorrow will have Elvin Rodriguez, and I heard this through Matt Shepard today, that there'll be the 11th pitcher the Tigers have had start this year, which is the most since 1939, I believe it was. I think of that, but it was a good pull there by Matt Shepard. And again, I know it's a starter, but Elvin was used out of the bullpen for the Tigers this year, but they think enough of Elvin that he will continue to be a starter. So this opens up an opportunity for somebody like Gardea to continue to make his way upward. But that's quite a jump in terms of from low A all the way up to AAA.
Oh yeah, no, you go ahead.
You go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Raj, you mentioned that he's good at like outside breaking balls to lefties. It's like I'm gonna give my 2 cent my Walmart color analysis on this as a baseball player and say that like the way that you always want your breaking ball to do, and like I know you guys know this, but like you always want it to be like sweeping, and you want to get like those outside calls when you're pitching on the same side. But like when you're throwing a breaking ball, you always want to get it out in front, right? You always want to make sure you have that leverage on it when you're coming down on it. It's like so you can really just get the depth in it. But when you're throwing it to the other side, you're not gonna want to get it inside because you really have to hook it off, and like it's hard to hit that inside zone because it can either just flatten out and it'll just be like an 83-mile-an-hour batting practice fastball, or it's just going to be like a wild pitch and go behind the batter, just right through the catcher. So yeah, if a pitcher can do that, then in my opinion, that's an impressive thing.
You don't want to avoid the dreaded cement mixer. We actually, for people who haven't seen him pitch, I'm
pulling it up right now, actually. So if anybody who's watching the live stream
Oh yeah,
can watch it here. So, oh yeah, but too that actually works too. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, but yeah, just because it's only like 20 seconds long or 40 seconds long or whatever. But okay, error occurred. Sorry. But anyway, yeah, like just kind of interesting. And we talked before about sometimes when guys make big leaps in the system, it's just because they are org guys and there's just a need. But I don't think this was strictly that. And I think there were plenty of guys they could have called up from Erie if they just needed a body and then sent back down. So, yeah, I think they kind of like it. His numbers this year are kind of ridiculous. It's like 29 strikeouts and 2 walks in 19 innings. Like, all right, well, let's see what we have here if we have anything. So, and he looked pretty good. So, now who knows? Vel Velares. Remember the name.
Yes, sir.
And
I guess just before we move on to Erie, just one more little tidbit. Unless you guys have anything about Toledo, just one quick thing I want to touch on is Jamie Walker, who had a pretty decent day with Toledo. I wanna give him credit where credit is due. Even though he only went 1 for 2 today, which people are gonna look at that and be like, why are you giving him credit? But if you watch the at bats that he took, I was looking at the sprays on it, and these are pretty decent highlights.
Okay, go ahead, David. I'm just sort of showing
to
go to you.
Highlights. I'm sorry. Yeah. You look at the at bats that he had over the course of the game, and just if there's one thing that you want to see out of hitters, it's being able to grind through at bats and just really go after what's yours, and that's getting on base. And that's exactly what Jamie Walker did today. It's like first at bat he had was 5 pitches, didn't do anything with it, but unfortunately, yeah, he worked the count pretty good. 5 pitches. Second at bat, 7 pitches, and I think that one was a walk. 7 pitches. It's like by the time you get to like 4, you're already sweating a little bit, and the anxiety starts to creep in. Third inning, 2 pitches, but that led to a single, so he got on base, and that was amazing. And fourth at bat, that was an intentional walk, but still, just the way that he was working counts today was
Jamie Westbrook.
What did I say? I'm sorry.
No, I think you're saying Jamie Walker, which is the great 2006 reliever, lefty reliever.
Lefty.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just want to make sure is there another Walker on there that I didn't miss. But anyway, well, he's another guy that they went out and targeted this year. Yeah. We talked about, it was something that Rogelio really talked about was the lack of depth in the system heading into the season, and they've tried to address that a little bit through these kind of, seems like bi-weekly minor league free agent acquisitions. And Westbrook was the first one, I think. But since then, we've seen Trace Thompson, we've seen Brendan Davis. So you never know when one of these guys is going to get a chance. The Tigers keep playing the way they have, then maybe all of them will get a chance by the end of the year.
But and that's the thing that I've noticed too, especially with the signing of Davis, is that if they are going to leave no stone unturned. And again, we saw the release this week of Paul Richan. He's gone, and so if you're not going to be producing, and to be fair though, he had some shoulder issues, and those things weren't going away. So it's unfortunate to hear. As we move on to Erie, and that was first and foremost, I want to thank everybody over both Gregs, Greg Anya and Greg Coleman over at the Erie Seawolves front office people. Salty there, great people. And what was it? Was it I'm trying to think of the lady's name now. I'm drawing a blank. That was so nice to us yesterday when we were in the first floor.
The ticket taker.
Yeah.
Shoot, I've kind of forgotten her name too. I'm so bad with names. But to your point, everybody was awesome to us. Yeah. From Greg and Greg to Gabe Alvarez gave us like 15 minutes of his time. Really fun guy to talk to. I don't think we're violating his trust by saying that he had some funny Keyshawn Johnson stories from when he was in USC back in the day, played Super Tecmo Bowl with him.
That was pretty sorry to hear.
Yeah, and just the players were cool to talk to. We sat behind a pitcher for the first game, and he was fun to chat to. And just a great organization. Even like I said before, like who's the woman in the shop? was it Christy? Was that her name?
Yeah, Christy. Yeah, she was really nice. She was the one that shipped out all our stuff. Which, by the way, we'll be giving that out away. There'll be winners for that next couple days, and so there's an autographed Riley Greenball somewhere near in the next 15 feet away from me. So, luckily for everybody, perhaps they don't know where I live, so that's a good thing. But nevertheless, it was a great time, and again, even just some of the nuances of like they went to this place called Shirley's, and the video's over on our Twitter, and it was funny because it was when you first walk in, don't call me Shirley if you've seen the movie Naked Gun or I'm sorry, Airplane.
Yeah,
you were watching Police Squad, and that's what made me think of it for a second there. But nevertheless, had a great burger, had the Shirley burger. It's fantastic. But everybody over there, just great organization. And we got in just in time to watch Reese Olson make a quick first inning. And then we saw something immaculate, Chris.
Yeah, a nine pitch inning from Reese Olson, 3 strikeouts, an immaculate inning. First one I've ever seen in person, at least at a professional level. Yeah, he was really good in that start. Set a career high with 11 strikeouts. He, lost the zone a little bit a few times later, and he got. I think he would have finished the game if not for the catcher's interference call against Dylan Digler.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. I didn't understand that call, by the way.
Well, it's just assuming the batter's bat hit Dingler's glove as he swung, so that's an automatic error on the catcher, and you get to first base. But yeah, he went 4 2/3, 11 strikeouts. Just all 4 of his pitches were working well. He was throwing 95, 96 there in the 5th inning, which was something that he wasn't doing last year when we saw him. He would touch 95, 96 in the first, and then by the 5th inning, he was kind of like 92, 94. So he's holding his velocity. 2 distinct breaking balls that are both pretty nasty. The changeup's great. He remains a really interesting pitching prospect that I continue to kind of hedge my bets and say I think he's probably going to end up as like an Alex Lang style reliever, which could be very valuable. But again, they're going to keep trying to start him until they can't anymore, right? And he's pitched really well. And Liz was the name of the ticket taker, by the way.
Yes, Liz. Yes, thank you.
Liz. And then Savannah, the bartender up there, the stadium club, she was nice to us too. So yeah, it was a great experience for us out there. And you mentioned Shirley's. That's where we ate today, but we also went to the Plymouth Tavern last night, which was fun. Really inexpensive but delicious bar food. And then we went earlier that day. We went to Dominic's, the suspiciously large Italian restaurant that serves the meatball omelets, which is not a combination of food I ever expected to hear, but they had it, and they're famous for it, so I had to try it, and it was tasty. So, but yeah, back to the baseball. That was a pretty dominant pitching performance we saw, and then we also saw, one of the better offensive performances you're ever going to see that day from Kerry Carpenter, which kind of spurred our, he's been performing well all year, but this was ridiculous. It was home run, double, home run, right? And he struck out in his 4th at bat. I'm like, what's wrong with you? But just a monster game from him.
Yeah, and one of the things that all right, what I'm about to say here next, I have to kind of tread carefully and not have my temper get the best of me. But so there's a couple things that we've been talking about Kerry Carpenter for a while now, going back to when Brandon Day was on with us before the podcast or before the preseason. That there was some interesting stuff about Carpenter. I know Trevor Hoof's talked about him too as well. And it's been coming to fruition because last year around this time, he got out to a really good start before he tailed off. But the big difference was this in the same first 25 games, the stats were identical, virtually identical. Then he tailed off last year. This year, it's completely different. He went on a tear. He's gotten 6 home runs in the last 12 games or something to that effect. He's hitting it, and it's not no cheapies either. I mean, he's getting some really you hear the contact a lot different. And overall, too, his just approach at the plate, just one of the things we're trying to figure out is when we talked to Gabe Alvarez, he let us know that he worked on his swing in the offseason. And so we were trying to figure out, we were looking at the comparison of the videos. And what I noticed, and David, you're probably articles on Tiger Mile Report, I would love to hear your take on this, but what it looks like here when he's finishing, he usually would set his arm up before he sets, and then he would raise his arm, then swing last year. But I noticed his elbows up the entire time, and his swing looks a lot more level and it looks more balanced through versus last year. Sometimes he looked a little off balance. that's just, again, from my amateur point of view, scouting point of view on his swing mechanics, and something that's subtly noticeable, but you have to really look for it. But either way, he leads all Tiger minor leaguers in home runs with 11, and he's just been a double. He's also been, in terms of even doubles machines, but I think he's 6 doubles. So that's among the top 3 in all of the system. And this is huge because Detroit does not really have, in terms of among their top prospects, an outfielder right now, because everything, you look at what's going on in Lakeland, that's it. West Michigan, I mean, well, Ben Malgerie, wow. Ben, I don't blank his name now.
Malgerie, Ben Malgerie.
And Vel Velares, thank you. He's off to a good start, and he's been hitting the ball too. But we always thought, and even Gabe talked about this too, until you get to double A, that's a real true merit of where your skill set is. And so Kerry Carpenter is about it. I mean, Jacob Robinson's not a prospect anymore. He's past prospect status. And so, but either way, I came away really impressed with him, and also Andre Lipsius, who really had a good weekend, and he's been continuing to hit the ball better. He's been drawing walks all season long, but he continues to. This weekend we saw him hit some opposite field home runs, and during batting practice, I think he had one Friday.
Yeah, he went just over the. I think it was Saturday.
Yeah,
just over. That's when we were down there for BP, and he was going. Saturday was the 3 doubles. He had 3 doubles on Saturday. Friday was the home run. I think you're right, but yeah, like we talked about Kerry Carpenter's monster week. He went 9 for 20 with 4 doubles and 3 home runs. Andre Lipsius went 9 for 20 with 4 doubles and 2 home runs. He was just almost as good, like really close, and he walked more than Carpenter. And we talked when we talked to Greg Gagne a while back. He said, that's the thing with Lipsius. You just need to see more power production from him, because if you don't hit for more power, you can't really play, especially if you're not going to be a true up the middle defender. I mean, he plays second base and third base, but that's not really his strong suit. I mean, his defense isn't. He's a quality defender, but he doesn't have much range. But yeah, so he's really helping out that lineup, and he and Carpenter are kind of pushing things right now. Daniel Cabrera had his best week of the season, which is unfortunately is not really saying much. I think he had 3 hits, but it was 3 for 13 with a double, a triple, and 5 walks. But I mean, looking at him, he looked basically the same. We caught 1 strikeout where he flailed at a ball that was at his eyes. It was like, oh, that's a bummer. And it's just a weird offense right now, because Carpenter and Lipsius are kind of, Carpenter is not on any prospect list. Lipsius, if he's on it, is down like the 20 to 30 range, and like the 3 highly ranked guys or more highly ranked guys, Workman, Dingler, and Meadows, just keep struggling. We did see Meadows hit his first home run since since April 14th or something like that, like 5 weeks since he's hit a home run. His first in Double-A. He caught a breaking ball that just broke right over the heart of the plate for him. But unfortunately, his swing looks a lot like it looked the last few years at West Michigan. There's just a little too much hand movement pre-swing, and we thought he'd kind of work that out. Maybe, I'm willing to give all these guys more time, obviously, but he's still just kind of struggling to make consistent hard contact again. And then with Workman and Dingler, it's like, all 3 of these guys made fine defensive plays over the course of the weekend. They're all, above average to plus defenders. But you got Workman with a 42% strikeout rate this year, and Dingler's at like 35%. And you can't be a regular big leaguer if you're striking out that much in Double-A, unfortunately. It doesn't happen. So again, we got to give these guys the full year. But I mean, we caught Dingler had the Olympic rings in the game we were at on Friday. 5 at bats, 5 strikeouts. It was like, oh man. And it just looked to me like the classic case of being caught in between. Like he was waiting for breaking balls, and then when he would get a fastball, he was just late on all of them, because we know he can get a fastball. We've seen him perform well in person before, but it wasn't a great look at Dingler, unfortunately. At least offensively. He was fine defensively. He still called a great game. He did have the catcher's interference, but he backpicked a couple guys over the course of the weekend. He's a great catch and throw catcher. He just he's going to need to make more contact.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like especially for the game today, one thing I want to give to Dingler is he had an AB in the third inning. I gotta find the spray chart again, but the one thing I'll say is that he's been grinding out at bats he's been grinding, like, if you guys can't tell already, I'm a big believer in
The grinder.
if you can work counts and really get through at bats, then I feel like that's positive development. And
Hey David, what's your favorite kind of sandwich?
A Reuben sandwich.
Oh, all right. I was hoping you'd go with grinder, but
delicious.
Sorry.
But yeah. Anyways,
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your flow there. You seem like you're a big fan of the guys who grind out at bats, which is, I agree. It's awesome when you see guys do that. Continue. Sorry to interrupt.
It's like here's the chain. Third inning for Dylan Dingler, ball, called strike, foul, and then ultimately it came up with a single. So that's what happens when you make contact. And with the exception of I guess the only tough thing is he grinded it out, but he swung at a lot of pitches out of the zone. But he's still able to get the bat to it, and if you can stay in counts, that's good. But yeah, like I said, if you can work counts and come out with something positive, that's the positive development.
No, you're right, David. That's something that doesn't go in the box score either, as far as just kind of something that's not mentioned. And in terms of a spray part, did you find that on curiosity? That was on was that Fangraphs on that?
No, that's just game day for the minor leagues.
Game day, of course. No, but there's just a go ahead, Chris.
Well, I was just gonna say a couple things. We asked Gabe Alvarez after the game on Friday night. We said, what do you say to Dingler after a game like that, where he catches a great game, but he goes 0 for 5 at the plate? And he said he viewed it as a positive that Dingler was still able to play quality defense and not let his performance at the plate affect him. And I think that there's something to, maybe that's a glass half full view, but I do think there's something to that, because we talked about it many times that when you're a catcher, being the catcher is the most important part, and any offense is great. Eventually you do have to hit a little bit, but he's hitting a little bit. It's just the strikeouts are a bit much. But then also, so Saturday we went and we interviewed Alvarez. That was when he gave us 15 minutes, and right after that he was going to go and work with Dingler, I think specifically, right? Or they were going to do specific cage work with Dingler, who wasn't playing on Saturday. It was so they're working on stuff constantly, and it's the things you don't. It's just, there's so much more to it than just watching the games and watching the box score. And we all, I think, know this, but I think sometimes it helps to get a reminder that these guys are still working stuff constantly.
Yeah, especially for the call up crowd, call them up. It's like there's a lot more to it, and there's nothing wrong with being enthusiastic about having somebody here. But it's case in point. The idea of when people look at Jonathan Scope's batting numbers or on base percentage and go, well, he sucks. It's well, did you really know that a couple of the balls he had? I remember during the Baltimore series, he had some balls really hard. It's just, unfortunately, it was to a bad spot. So those are a good sign. Even Javier Baez today with an opposite field home run, that's a good sign.
That was a clothesline too. If you watch that, it's the fan that caught it. It's it was almost like Javi was playing catch with him. He's like, here, go stand in the outfield. I'm going to try and hit this right to you. You catch it.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead, Chris.
No, I just Javi Baez doing anything offensively is a good sign. He's kind of like what we were talking about with these guys in Erie. This is spectacular defense, bring some offense, hopefully some power, and then we're talking. But we didn't. We talked about Olson, we talked about the bats, we talked about the great people of Erie, the restaurants, all that good stuff. We haven't talked about some of the pitchers. We didn't see Wilmer Flores. We missed him by a day, but that was a pretty spectacular debut. And we talked about it on Thursday, I think. So if you want to hear our thoughts in more depth on that, you can go back and listen to that, the Woodward Tigers podcast. But yeah, it was electric stuff as usual, and the command needs to take a step forward a little bit for him to reach the majors. But he looks legit. And then the rest of the staff, Garrett Hill pitched there this week, and then he moved up. But Austin Bergner continues to perform, and he's a guy who we didn't really know the velo on Bergner. It's been in the low to mid 90s before, but he 2 starts ago he took a perfect game into the 6th inning, And in this start this week, he retired 16 batters in a row at one point from like the one out in the first all the way into the sixth inning. And it turns out he's just working with an 89 to 92 mile an hour fastball that hitters can't really get a hold of yet because he's got a changeup and a curveball that both show signs of being above average. And it's like, this is another instance of them kind of, I don't know, you don't want to say just finding pitchers, but really kind of helping pitchers be their best selves, at least in the minors to this point. Because I did not expect this from Bergner. We all thought he was going to be a reliever, right? And maybe he still will be a reliever down the road, but he went from relieving in the minors to suddenly being one of the better starters on the team in Double-A, which is kind of wild. And who else pitched? You're talking about Wolf?
What?
Did you mention Adam Wolf?
Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off here, story, but going back to Erie, I wanted to give some credit to two guys for Erie today. That's Adam Wolf and also I don't know how to pronounce his name, Yai Chentov.
Chintoof.
He threw a pretty productive inning today. Is that how you pronounce
he's
it?
One of the more consistent relievers.
Chintoof.
Yeah, I mean, he had a pretty dominant inning of work today, 2 strikeouts, and also Adam Wolf had a very, very dominant outing strikeout wise, 8. I took a note on this. Shoot, I have to find it here. If you guys have a point you want to touch on while I look for this, by all means.
I know that he had 8 strikeouts in 4 innings, right? And which is interesting because you don't necessarily think of him as like a dominant strikeout guy, but I mean he was doing work. I think he probably would have preferred to go more than 4 innings than get those 8 strikeouts because, as we talked, I think before the show, I don't know if we mentioned on the show, but Erie's bullpen ended up getting kind of taxed this week, and it wasn't necessarily because the starters. I mean, the starters didn't work super deep, but they haven't been working very deep all year. It's a lot of them are on pitch counts, but the bullpen just kept getting rocked. We saw, I want to say they gave up like 7 or 8 runs in the final 3 innings total in the 2 games we were there, and they gave up 12 runs, I think, on Tuesday, the bullpen alone. And these are veteran arms like Gerson Moreno and Shea Spitzbarth and Zach Houston we saw this week. And who else did we see? We saw
Nick
White came into. What's that?
Nick Kunza.
Nick Kuzia. And we saw Brendan White pitch a little bit. And so today they had to, in a tie game in the extra innings, use John Rossoff, their catcher, as a pitcher, which we saw Lansing do that a couple weeks ago. And it's just like, I mean, it makes sense. The games don't count. So they go obviously to the players, but at some point you go, we don't have anybody healthy or ready to go. We don't get anybody hurt. So sorry, John, go out there and take one for the team. And he did.
Yeah, Raj, Gerson Moreno got an inning in today. Are you happy?
Yeah, I wasn't happy what I saw on Friday. It was Friday when I saw him. Excuse me, where he's it's just the thing that we were talking about, that he'll have a really good outing, and then just all of a sudden the train goes unraveling a bit. His fastball got up to 95, 96.
I think he touched 98.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. He did touch 98. Yeah, his fastball is just it's a matter of command, and he lacks it. And as soon as he loses his command, it's over. And we saw that when he got a couple walks, and when he got tattooed, or excuse me, when he got hit, and so. I don't want same thing. Anyway, but I thought that even his off-speed stuff, he had no command of it whatsoever on Friday. And so I didn't get a chance to check how did he do today.
I'm sorry. I found my note on Wolf, so I was just reading that, but one inning, no hits, unearned run, a walk and a strikeout.
That sounds like a typical inning from him currently.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a Moreno.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to hear this interesting little tidbit on Adam Wolf that I found from his outing, with the exception of 4 outs over his 4-inning outing, all the outs that he did record over that outing were strikeouts, which is kind of like I'm going to take that as kind of like a neutral, not like a positive or a negative. It's like, unfortunately, the 4th inning kind of unraveled for Wolf today, but like he was being aggressive and he was going after guys, and that's something you really like to see. It's like if you can just tone it down and know where to not go for the strikeout per se. Like I know it's pitchers love striking guys out, but there's also times where you have to try and be efficient. And but it's nice to see that he was being aggressive with hitters.
Especially with the fact that as a lefty, with a guy who, I mean, he throws does he throw like in the?
I think he's more like 88 to 91. He's like a Tyler Alexander lefty.
Yeah, touch and feel with some movement he has to go on. That's good. You as a lefty, you need every advantage you can get, and they played a pretty good Fisher Cats team. And Toronto has a couple of their top prospects in there, in Martinez. So there was no slouch. I mean, that team kept coming. That was one thing about, in terms of Friday and Saturday, they were competitive. They were very competitive, and no matter when Erie was getting ahead, the Fisher Cats came back and did a So
they battled back a lot. Let's move on. We had a great time. We had a great time in Erie, and thanks again. But let's head to West Michigan, where we also usually have great times.
Yes,
and lots of good people there too.
Chris, I'm not ready to leave here yet.
Okay.
There's one more site I want to see before we leave.
Fair enough.
Just to end it on a positive note, I want to talk about one last stat for Kerry Carpenter, which I want to say is pretty awesome, is that hitting 408 on balls in play and also 388 on base percentage at the same time. So even though it's 10 walks to 43 strikeouts, it's pretty fascinating to see with getting as much consistent playing time as Carpenter's getting. It's nice to see him just absolutely hammering the balls, it seems, right now.
Yeah, we were discussing that because one of the big changes is his batting average this year, right? It's higher. I mean, he's hitting for more power too, but I think Raj was really digging into the stats and found that what was his fly ball rate was it down? I think it was down. Yeah. His line drive rate, they weren't big differences, but his fly ball rate was down and his line drive rate was up, which is, you never go wrong hitting line drives for the most part. So, yeah.
Okay, I'm ready now.
All right. So let's go on to West Michigan as they are on the road this week against Fort Wayne. And this is something I was talking about with Chris earlier today, that this is not the typical Fort Wayne team that we're used to seeing. The Padres usually have this team stacked with prospects, and it seemed like they're a little down. They're coming in at the same time with West Michigan as one of the, in terms of record-wise, very similar records, but props to the Whitecaps who, again, they split the – no, I'm sorry, they did win the series this week it's the second series in a row they've won, and now they're just 18-21 on the season, and they look like they're getting back to playing close to 500 ball. But there's a couple, I mean, in terms of the offense, what they're able to do, they got 2 shutouts. They had 3 shutouts this week. So one was on Wednesday, one was on Saturday, and one was today, as we'll go start with Wednesday start, 9-0 win over the Tin Caps, and that was a combination of Colt Keith, 3 for 5, Winston Perez, 3 for 4, Josh Crouch, who you told me, Chris, you admittedly have he's growing in your admiration. He's driving the crotch wagon. And then Gardino's final appearance in West Michigan was, I mean, that was just, who knew? But in terms of Gabe Cabrera, we'll get to him. I wrote an article about him, Jeremy, on
it was MCB,
it was MCB. It was one of my last articles at MCB. You find it. I talked about his delivery, and I'm a big fan of him and what he's trying to do. And just simply went from overhand to sidearm, completely changed him as a reliever. So, but yeah, that was a game where, as long as these two guys in Ben Malgerie, he had another game, 2 hits, and he had a catch today. We'll get to that in a second. But again, this is a team that the offense has just suddenly woke up a little bit recently, and we weren't sure that was going to happen based off some of the things. But Chris, Winston Perez is continuing to elevate himself.
Yeah, I was looking up some stats just for fun and breaking it down. So he what's he hitting? He went 8 for 22 this week with 2 doubles, 2 homers, 3 walks, 3 steals. He's now hitting 283 with a double-digit walk rate in an ISO of over 280. And there are fewer than 10 22-year-olds in minor league baseball who could say that, and most of them are like legit prospects, like the McLean kid who was just out of I don't know why I forgot his name, but
are you talking about Matt McLean?
Yeah, Matt McLean. Matt McLean is one of them. Yeah, there are some legit prospects who are doing what Winston Perez is doing, and like Carson Williams, I think, was a shortstop from the Rays. So yeah, his numbers are absolutely bonkers this year, and it's kind of fun to see because it was totally unexpected. He's doing a little bit of everything on offense, but I think if we're going to talk about the Whitecaps offense this week, there's really it was just one name to talk about, and it was the Jake Holton show. And I don't know if I feel like David is kind of the high man on Jake Holton, so I don't know if you have anything particular you want to say about his week.
Oh yeah, it's today hit a home run today, which the at bat was quick. He was aggressive, but yeah, overall just I've been a huge proponent of Jake Holton. I know he was he had to fill a slot for Erie recently. He didn't get much playing time there, but oh yeah, just I'll pull up his recent games, but I'm happy to see that he went deep today. But one note that I want to touch on is a man that desperately needs a win, and he got one today in Ty Madden, who had a pretty fantastic outing. And yeah, well, I look up I'm gonna look up the game logs for Jake Holton.
Yeah, I was wanting to go in chronological order with that, but yeah.
I can tell you that Jake Holton this week went 6 for 18 with 5 home runs, including 4 games in a row. Yesterday, the day before, 7 walks, 10 RBIs. If he's not the Midwest League Player of the Week, then we quit, because that's one of the best weeks you'll ever see.
Oh yeah, it looks like it. Only struck out 8 times, 8 times this month overall, and only 4 times in the last week. That's that's pretty amazing to see, because like when you're in the lower minor league levels, all you want to do is just impress your club and just start hitting the snot out of the ball. But yeah, when you get start again, it's all about the grind. When you put together solid at bats and do something with it, even if you're hitting a opposite field out to right field as a right-handed batter, that's like something that I personally as a hitting coach would love to see. And like as long as you're putting the bat on the ball, then that's fantastic. And I think that's looks like what Holt's been doing so far.
Yeah, and it like you mentioned you touched on Colt Keith, Raj, and it's there were like the Whitecaps offense has been pretty good all year long. We've talked about how they, like, despite their terrible record at one point, they were like the best offense in the league. And Colt Keith, it's kind of getting boring now to see him go, hit 340 for the entire week. What did he do this week? He went 8 for 22 with a double, a triple, 3 walks. He's hitting 317. It's just what he does now. He's going to spray the ball around. He's going to get hits and get on base. So yeah, I mean, he's a guy that for all the talk about, hey, when's he going to get called up? When's he going to get called up? I think he's a guy that will definitely get a call up at some point in the next month or so, because he's a high priority prospect for them. And you don't want to say he's mastered this level, but he looks pretty darn good, and he's been pretty consistent. So, and then, yeah, if I may talk about my man Josh Crouch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, like, I don't know. I've talked about this before. I saw one at bat in spring training. I was like, hey, I like that, because he did that thing where he was gearing up for a fastball, started to swing, and noticed that it was a breaking ball during his swing and made the adjustment and drove a double to right field. And I was like, that's really advanced hitting for anybody to see that. And so I don't know what he's hitting on the year, but this week he went.
By the way, he's in terms of the year, in terms of how his numbers look for the year, he is bad. I just had it. There it is. Okay. So, no, never mind. It's gone.
And it's gone.
And it's gone.
I know he went 8 for 16 this week with a double and I think 3 walks. And I guess, what I like about him is that he's a catcher and he can hit. I think he's going to hit. I don't know if he's going to hit at the highest levels, but
351
on the year. Yeah. He's a college player. I think he was a 4-year college player, so you would kind of expect him to be doing well, or you at least hope that you're going to do well in the low minors. And but yeah, what I like about him defensively is he actually seems like a pretty good receiver too. He's got has kind of the subtle framing that you can watch him try, and I think he's a decent reason why some of that pitching down there has been good. And he's got a strong arm. He's thrown out a bunch of guys this year, or at least a handful of guys that I've seen. Be like that. The one big issue so far, I think, is that he hasn't hit for a ton of power. He did hit a bomb at the game we were at, or the game I was at in Lansing. But I think that might be his only home run of the year. And like I said, only one double this week. So, that might limit his ceiling at higher levels if pitchers aren't afraid of him doing damage against them. But I thought he was known for power down at, where was he, UCF?
Yep.
So I don't know. He's just a guy, like I said, I wouldn't put him in the Tigers' top 10, top 15, top 20 prospects, but I do think I put him in our top 30. I think I put him in the back end just because if you're a catcher and you can catch and you can hit, I think you'll find a job eventually. So,
especially in a time of baseball we're in right now where we're pretty desperate for catchers in general. It's touching briefly on Major League Baseball, it's you can only count a handful of catchers that are actually making an impact on their team, and they're not just defense first guys. But yeah, it's especially with the Tigers, we have a lot of I'm not gonna say our catching depth is deep, but it's noticeable. It's you see a lot of especially with Dylan Dingler. It's I think I mentioned this on the last show. When you're a catcher, it's pretty hard to balance offense and defensive work because it's safe to say that 5 out of the 7 days of the week you're not necessarily focusing on hitting, but blocking drills and framing drills and just all sorts of defensive work to make you a better catcher. But yeah, it's just when you're able to not just hit for power, but at least be able to work the count and be able to hit well as a catcher, it's hard. It's very hard, and it's nice to see we got some guys in the system that are doing that.
Yeah, and maybe Dingler's a cautionary tale for us here, where Crouch Dingler hit really well, amazingly well in High A last year. This dude is too good for this level, and it's been a struggle for him in Double A. So there's a big leap there. So maybe the same thing will happen to Crouch. But I don't know. I just think he's a name people should know at least, and we'll keep following him, and maybe down the road he'll move his way to prospectdom or disappear. But the offense was solid this week. You mentioned Ben Malgerie. That's Trevor Huth's guy. He was the one who's been, pumping him up, and he got off to a really slow start, but he's been one of their best hitters for the last month or so. And he's, you mentioned Raj, he made a really nice kind of sprawling catch. It wasn't a full dive, but he ran forever. That was Saturday night, I think. I think it was off Robert Hassel fly ball, and he went from basically right center all the way to left center to make the catch. And it's this dude he's a plus runner. Looks like he could be a plus defender, and he's hitting. Again, that's a kind of a Crouchian profile, right? Not the speed, but these are guys. What you want to see from your college draft picks. You don't know if they're prospects, but please come in and perform in the low minors so we can move you up eventually and see what you are. So, I don't know. That's the offense has been good.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, you touched on Ben Malgerie, and I guess the question I have is he has the plus speed, but do you think he has the defensive awareness to back him up with it though? Because that's the one thing I always want to see with outfielders. When a fly ball is hit to an outfielder, in my opinion, the one thing I want to see him do is be able to track a fly ball well, and because I've seen my fair share of fly balls to the outfield that are deep, but you see the outfielder backing up towards the wall, and their spatial awareness is off, and you see him just making the catch, but smashing into the wall at the same time. So with Malgerie, how's this? Does he do a decent job at knowing where the wall is?
Yeah, I admit I haven't zeroed in on him a ton, but every time I've watched him, he looks like a natural center fielder. He looks like he's got the range, he's got the feel, he knows where he is. I think there are a couple times it gets pretty deep there in center at LMCU that he might have could have stopped and played the ball off the wall or whatever. But I think that comes with, for a lot of guys, that comes with just learning the park after a few months or so. But no, he looks like a guy who could legitimately play center field to me, which is good.
Oh yeah, and after doing some research, I want to give a little bit of a shout out to bounce back to Jake Holton, who has I want to say, he has 9 hits right now since his return to West Michigan. So props to Mr. Jake Holton, and of those 7, 5 of them are home runs. See, he's tearing the cover off the ball right now.
Yeah, for sure. And so I mean that's the offense for the most part. It was kind of rough weeks for some of the other Myers didn't have a big week. Brian Packer didn't play much, so you never know with him. He's dealt with some injuries in the past. But the pitching, you touched on it with Ty Madden. Ty Madden pitched twice. In the first game, I don't know, Ty Madden, just in general, he doesn't look 100% to me. Like, I'm not saying he's injured, but the first few starts this year, he was looking kind of electric, like fastball into the upper 90s, really sharp breaking balls, and he just looks a little sluggish to me, but he gutted out 5 innings in that first start on Tuesday, and 7 hits, 3 earned runs, and then today, that's another one that I was watching that while Roger's driving, and it was another one where he wasn't necessarily dominant by any means, but again, got through 5 innings, and then the one thing that we saw that we really wanted to mention, which I thought was a good sign, is there in the 5th, I think he had men on second and third with 1 out. And, he's coming up toward the end of his pitch count. They've got these guys on limits. And he got out of it. He struck out a guy and then got a weak grounder. And it was like, I don't know, I just like to see things like that. A guy can buckle down and get the big outs when he needs to. And I don't remember what the score was at the time. It may have been like 2-0. They eventually went on to win 8-0, I think. But it was nice to see. And like you mentioned, David, he got the win, which is always, wins and losses aren't a huge thing, particularly in the minor leagues. But I'm sure as a pitcher, you want to feel like you helped your team win, and getting that actual win probably makes you feel a little bit better than going, yeah, I think I helped him.
Oh, so. Yeah. And you touched on the 5th inning that Madden had. And again, going back to my Walmart color analysis, like that he allowed a leadoff double from Adam Kerner to start his inning. And I guess the one thing I like to see from pitchers personally is like when you get into trouble right off the bat, especially after having 4 solid innings like he did, it's like you start to get in your own head a little bit because like you're like, oh, now I have to work through 3 outs with a runner on second, and I'm sure like how's his pitch count looking by that 5th inning? Was it getting up there by that point or?
Yeah, they actually had somebody warming in. They had Jack O'Loughlin warming in the 4th, I think. Did we catch that, Raj? They were. Yeah, he was coming up on, I think, a pitch limit in the 4th just for the inning, and then for the game in the 5th. So, yeah, and that as a pitcher, the guy's warming up back there. You can't make too many mistakes. Small things that.
I'm sorry.
No, just the small things that might not be there in the box score. Again, like we always say, that are just nice to see, give you a little insight into what a player can and can't do.
And that's the thing. It's like that adds on to it. I'm going to talk about Jack O'Loughlin in a second, but knowing that you're on an innings limit and you see the guy in the bullpen, you get in your head thinking like, oh my god, like every next thing that happens to this batter could be my last batter of the outing. So it was nice to see him keep a level head with it. It looked like he was aggressive with the exception of Corey Rosier. If that's how you pronounce his name, 6-pitch battle with him. But yeah, it's like nice seeing him get out of it at the end of the day and putting together a good outing.
For sure. And then yesterday was Dylan Smith pitching. That was his start of the year, or start of the only start of the week, I think. And it was kind of a classic Dylan Smith outing. We put up his outing, I think, this morning while we were driving. That was me. Again, Roger was driving, so I was the one cutting it up, and we weren't putting anybody at danger for the most part. But Dylan Smith, it was like a classic Dylan Smith. I feel like this is his outing every week. It's 5 innings, like 3 hits, no walks, 4 strikeouts. You watch him, there's not a ton of swing and miss, but he keeps guys off balance, and he gets fairly weak contact. And I don't know, he looks good to me. I still am not seeing a ton of changeups. I'd like to see more, but the 2 breaking balls look above average, and the fastball's nice. So I don't know, he looks like another. I think he's probably a top 10 prospect in the system, if not top 12.
What was his velocity looking like, Dylan Smith, in his last outing?
He's been typically, so when we caught him in, didn't we catch him? That was the game we both went to, Raj, in Lansing. He was 92, 95, or no, that was the game I went to. He was 92, 95. We caught, who did we see? Flores. Yeah, we got the 2/3 of an inning from Flores. Smith was 92, 95 the whole game when I was there with his fastball. And I've never seen him bump above that 95. And I don't know if I've seen him go below 91. So it's legit. It's nothing super fast, but the hitters don't seem to. In the game I saw, they squared him up the second time around. but before that, he seems to be improving on that too. And everybody got hit hard in Lansing. I think that hitters just see the ball really well there because there's a giant green wall in the center field, kind of like America. But
yeah, I mean, the one thing that like I want to say is pretty impressive, and it's like the one thing I always look for with pitchers when you're trying to decide on like is he ready to make that next step to the next league, and that's what I think a lot of the young pitchers we have in the system are doing really well right now. Matter of fact, and that's just like I don't know if the pitching coaches do this in the minor league systems, but deciding like what half of the strike zone that you want to focus on in this particular outing. I think honestly that's one thing that our pitchers have been doing really well. It's like, especially if like you can command your fastball on both sides of the plate, and especially if you're looking at it low as well. Like if you can put the fastball in both corners low, or if you can command both sides of the plate, and it's nice to see all our pitchers doing that. And also, I think that's what Jack O'Loughlin did really good as well. If you want to touch on that,
I didn't even watch him pitch. I'll be honest. So, yeah.
I mean, he was efficient. I wrote it down somewhere here. Yeah. Only 2 strikeouts. Didn't allow a hit though. Yeah, it looked like he was pretty quick with his outing. Yeah, overall it was pretty impressive, and I like to see it coming out of the bullpen as well, because I know he's been getting some starts recently, but yeah, he certainly had a noticeable outing.
Nice. Yeah, and then Cater Montero had a nice start too, right, Roger? Was that the Wednesday? Was he the starter on Wednesday? The game you were talking about?
Yeah, he was the starter on Wednesday, which we went 15 minutes ago, and now I don't know how we ended up here, but yeah, nevertheless, that was something that I was trying to go through. The reason why I like going in the way that you go through the schedule, so that way you could go through each performance and kind of sum up everything. Yeah. And so,
yeah, that's right. My fault. I derailed you because I thought we had to talk about Jake Holton and his 5 home runs.
Oh no, it's fine.
We can finish up in Lakeland. I don't know. Did we?
Let's please finish up in Lakeland here. As Lakeland, in terms of having a week this week, it's funny. I saw a headline that said something along the lines of their hated rival, the Jupiter Hammerheads, and I just kind of laughed at myself. But I just thought about the context of the conversation of where in terms of even like lower A, for example, for Lakeland or anything like that, to have a rivalry, it just kind of cracks me up a little bit. But nevertheless,
yeah, that's funny. I've never thought of them having a rival at all. Yeah, I feel bad, but I haven't. Like,
yeah,
who cares?
Pretty much. And again, it's another typical week for Carlos Mendoza as he continues to hit. He had 4. I mean, it's funny. I was looking up the stats for among the minor leaguers and who led all the minor leagues in hits. So I was thinking to myself, he has to be up there, right? And he only got 28 hits. It doesn't include today. Does not include today. But I was looking at his batting average, looking at some of the things he does to get on base, and his OPS is 877. And he's been playing a little bit everywhere, third base, outfield, and he's playing a lot of the outfield this week. But him and Isaac Pacheco, I thought had pretty decent weeks in terms of just Pacheco. We were looking for really progress among that, and Mango Sequeira too had a really good week, and that really is the headline for the week. But the first pitcher that noticed that came out was Garrett Burnham on Wednesday. 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 run, and 9 strikeouts. And the Lakeland rotation, which we don't really talk about too much in terms of like comparatively speaking to West Michigan or Erie, for example, I thought I had again, just in terms of looking at some of the numbers, you look at low A numbers and kind of go, oh, well, a lot of the walks and stuff like that, because a lot of the kids are trying to aim the throw. I thought they had a good week. I thought the pitching staff did a really good job this week.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think Lakeland won the first 4 games of the week, and then they unfortunately lost both ends of a doubleheader today. They were rained out. Or they were supposed to have a doubleheader yesterday, and the second game got delayed by rain. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, they drafted so many pitchers last year in the top 10 rounds, and just in general that they were bound to. There's just a couple guys there, and like you mentioned, Burnham. He shouldn't be in low A. He's got 4 pitches and is into the low 90s. Like, he knows how to pitch. he should probably be in high A but they need to get him innings, and there's only so many innings you can give. And same with Brant Herter. He should be in high A, and he probably will be soon. But yeah, and then they've got those other, like the younger guys. Jackson Jobe, of course, is the one who's going to get all the attention, but Carlos Pena is pretty young, and he's a touch and feel lefty, but he went out and pitched well. So yeah, it's a solid rotation down there. They just, again, I think a lot of it is we don't see them on TV very often, so we just it's kind of out of sight, out of mind at times, and really also just everybody only cares about Jobe, I think, unfortunately.
Or Campos. I mean, Roberto Campos also gets that kind of like everybody's wondering what's.
Yeah, or there's definitely the hitters they care about, but I'm on the pitching staff. But yeah, like you should Sakura. I mean, Lynn Henning was down there and actually was like, the Tigers have a good one in Sakura. That's like, all right, well, I mean, yeah, we've been tweeting about him for, I don't know, most of the month because, and he's a guy that, we've tweeted him for a couple of years, but because he went bonkers last year with 11 home runs, but in the month of May, he's just doing a ton of damage. And the big thing is he's still not walking. He's going to be an aggressive hitter, but he's cut his strikeout rate by like 20%. It's kind of insane. Probably not 20%, but he went from like a 30% strikeout guy to a 15% strikeout guy this month. And it's one of those things where suddenly he's putting the bat on the ball and he's doing a lot of damage. And what were his stats this week? Let me just look real quick. 10 for 24 with 3 doubles, 2 homers, 8 RBIs, but then no walks and 4 strikeouts. And that's just to get back to Carlos Mendoza briefly. You're looking for him thinking he's going to be on the top of the hit list. It's probably not because he walks so much.
Yeah.
He is an on-base machine. He is one of 2 guys in the system with more walks than strikeouts. And he has, let me see, what does he have? Yeah, he walks almost 1.5 times per every strikeout. 23% walk rate for Carlos Mendoza, which is tops in the system. So I don't know. He's another guy that somebody asked us, should he be moved up? And it's like, yeah, he can probably handle any level above this, basically, with that eye. It's just a matter of, how he's viewed within the organization. And I don't think there's a huge priority there for whatever reason.
Yeah, he's a lefty bat too, which is always nice to see. But he doesn't hit for a lot of power. So that's where, I mean, you walk. It's a case here where a walk rate's good. Don't get me wrong, but you also need some power. It'd be nice if we had a little bit of power to back that up. But I thought that the ability to play both third base and second base and the outfield does pretty well. And not to mention, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but defensively, there's a lot of errors. He's not a big liability out there.
No, not at all. I think there's a lot to like about him. He's pesky. He gets on base. He hits. Like, he knows how to hit. He steals bases. He's a quality defender all over the place. So it's just like you said, that there just hasn't been much pop and very little over the fence power, I think, in his career, which is going to hold you down a little bit. But I don't know, if you're going to be a utility guy and you've got all these other skills, then just keep an eye on him, right? I mean, it's the Harold Castro slow play plan. Just see if he's sticking around in like 3 years, and maybe he'll make the majors. But if not, he's just he's been a quality hitter for Lakeland for sure, and a key part of that offense. Another
guy that made their debut this week for Lakeland was Frank Vel Velares, who is a second baseman who just jumped up from the Gulf Coast League, rookie league that was for last year, and just started playing this year, or just joined Lakeland rather. And he was signed a couple weeks, assigned from rookie complex ball. I don't know, I can't talk all of a sudden, to Lakeland. And so I don't know too much about him, but hopefully it's one of those guys that I'll get to see a chance of June 1st through the 4th. So I'm looking forward to that trip and going out there and see what's that. But other than that, in terms of Lakeland, I was trying to think of anybody else that had a week, but looks like as far as, I forgot about Kingston Liniak still being in the system. I feel like he's been in Lakeland for 5 years now.
It does, unfortunately. Yeah, and he was the 4th rounder in 2018, and I think he has been. And I don't know if he may have gotten to West Michigan briefly when they were low A. I might be wrong there, but Matty Lou and Rod Carew. Yeah, I think if Carlos Mendoza were that good, then he'd probably be hitting like 500 with the walk rates. But still, I don't know. Roberto Campos hit his second home run of the year, which is nice to see. He's been hitting the ball hard. He just needs to lift it more. Isaac Pacheco kind of had a quiet, good week again. I think, what did he do? He went 8 for 21 with a homer and a walk. Like, just a lot of singles, and I think his homer may have been opposite field. I don't know, but yeah, they've got some decent hitters there. We're just kind of waiting on the return of Christian Santana, who was showing some impressive power but wasn't hitting much, and that's hopefully he's back for you when you're down there.
Yeah, I mean, there's one thing I want to say about Campos. Like, yeah, he's been hitting the ball hard recently, but there's I had two things I want to talk about. Was the ABs that Sakara had, which even though he went over the doubleheader, I had a note on that, but also with Campos, which is actually my version of trivia today that I have for you guys.
Right.
So over the course of all his at-bats in the doubleheader, Campos saw 13 pitches in total in that doubleheader. Both of you want to take a guess at how many swings he had? Of those
13 pitches?
Yep.
I'm going to go with 11.
I'll take the under. I'll take 10.
He had 3.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah, and one of the swings was a ground ball, and the other 2 were swinging strikes. So I think that was one thing that was a little concerning for me is there's such things as being aggressive. Like, yeah, he had 2 walks in game 1, but if there's one thing I want to see from Campos is you touched on it last week, Chris. Like, you want to see him hitting more fly balls.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's like honestly, I just like to see him getting after balls in general. It's like it's a nice thing to have a decent knowledge of the strike zone. It's like, but yeah, I'd like to see him swinging the bat a little bit more. It's like be more confident with the swings because, like, yeah, even though one of those 3 swings was a ground ball out, you can still try and give it your all. It's like I'd even like to see him just like totally put everything into it on one swing. It's like even though he might look silly, something might come out of it. But yeah, it's like, yeah.
It could be the case where they ask him to just kind of work on his swing a little bit, maybe not swing as much, because you guys were mentioning earlier every pitcher has a specific thing they have to work on. And with Campos, maybe they're trying to say, look, try to take some more pitches try to take more pitches, work the counts a little more, and see and be less and more selective about what you're going to hit. Because if there's one thing about, it seems like with the Tigers they've done, we've seen this with the pitcher side, perhaps even on the hitter side of things, they could be just telling that, because Campos' nature has always been to be aggressive, from my understanding, Chris. I mean, based off some of the strikeout rates we saw last year, in his first year of pro ball. So,
yeah, and there could be. We never know what instruction they're giving these guys, unfortunately. So it could be something like I don't know. I don't think we have pitch level data, like what pitches he was getting, but it could be like, we only want you to swing at changeups or something like that. Like, oh, come on, seriously? You never know. I don't think the Tigers have been known to do that kind of coaching in the past, but we don't know now what the development team is like. So, but yeah, I mean, you could tell by both of our guesses, like, we just assumed he was going to be swinging at everything because that's kind of has been his nature. Certainly, that's like Strikeouts. That's the issue with him, is being aggressive. But I think I've been pleasantly surprised by Campos's. Like, his OPS is lower now in low A than it was in the GCL, which you kind of expect. But I think his walk rate's probably up a little bit, and I think his strikeout rate might be down a little bit. I haven't checked, but I don't know. I've been fairly pleased with his progress. I just think that it's going to be a fairly long process with him, just because he defected when he was 14, 13. He's just kind of hidden away for 3-4 years.
Yeah, the Tigers certainly, from what I've read about Campos, the Tigers certainly held him close to the vest during like the international signing period. That's the famous thing about him. But yeah, I also had a note I wanted to touch on really quick about Sakara. Is it?
Mm-hmm.
It went over for the doubleheader today, which is like, it's rough to actually, no, never mind. He had 1 hit, but if there's one thing I really want to respect about the doubleheader he had was again, I'm going to say this again. He was the grinder of the day for Lakeland, and I don't think he had an at bat over the course of the doubleheader today that was like under 5 pitches. I think give or take like 1 at bat. So he had one today that was like 7 or 8 pitches, and that was something I really honestly like to see, because like even if you're coming out of it with nothing, you still have like, you can say that you weren't just like flailing at 3 straight pitches. Like it was, you gave it your all, and that was something I like to see from him, and especially in single A ball as well. Because usually, I don't know. I guess from what I've seen, you start to see a little bit more plate discipline once you get to like West Michigan or Erie.
Well, yeah, you kind of need it because the pitchers are going to know where their pitchers are going more than and lower. But yeah, I mean, I think it's fairly clear that he's seeing the ball a lot better this month than he did last month and than he did last year for the most part, which I think I take as a positive sign because that's one of the things that we always kind of view as being innate, that sort of plate discipline and pitch recognition. I do think you can improve pitch recognition for sure, but plate discipline is kind of tough to fix. So I think, I'm pleased by his progress. And again, he's another guy that we're going to monitor as the season goes along. I don't think we're going to see Campos or Santana or Sequeira in West Michigan at any point this year. And I don't think we should, or Pacheco for that matter. Just give these guys a full year and, let them grind it out. And we'll see them next year, hopefully.
Yeah. To be fair, we said the same thing about Wilmer Flores as well, but he did decent for Erie, but we'll see.
Yeah. I think this is a different kind of case where you have to keep these guys together. As far as Flores, I thought he would hit the AA a little later than he expected, maybe in June or July.
I think we've assumed that Flores, Madden, and Smith would all hit AA at some point this year if they stay healthy, just because they're all relatively advanced and it's a different story. Like we don't expect Job to leave Lakeland either, unless something goes crazy and he strikes out like 15 guys. But that doesn't seem to be where his development is going right now. So.
Yeah, and as far as again, one of those things we can always look at later on, and just in terms of progressing these guys, it's good to keep them together. I really think that, and Campos to be one of the team's leaders in hits, and that's a sign for his age. So, as far as articles go to Tiger ML Report, TigersMLReport.com. Check out the Kerry Carpenter piece. Tomorrow we're going to have the weekly recap series is going to be back. Scouting reports, we're just finishing ironing up a little bit of how we want to format, so there'll be a couple of reports up this week. And, yeah, next week I'll be down in Lakeland. We'll be doing I'll probably do something from Lakeland at some point next week. I just got to figure that part out. But we're back next Sunday. Hopefully, we'll start a little earlier. Hopefully, we're not road.
Memorial Day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Memorial Day. So no show next week. No show next week. We'll, Memorial Day is Monday. We'll figure it out. There'll be something. Like I said, there'll be plenty of content over at TigersMLReport.com. We're going to submit our top prospects list. Chris has got his done. David has his done. I just talked to Jake over the weekend, and he'll have his done. And Jake is a busy man, and he said he will be coming on to contribute here regularly as well. So thanks so much for watching us on YouTube if you were watching us live this evening. And don't forget to download, check out the podcast. And Jeremy, thank you for being a faithful listener. We definitely appreciate it. And again, shout out to everybody over in Erie for a fantastic weekend. And I look forward to going back out there again. It's a town that's kind of grew on me a little bit because this is my 4th time I've been out. Well, I was telling Greg the stories about went out there for a wedding, but that's another story for another day. That's my brother's wedding. So shout out to my brother, the Blakesty family in Erie, Pennsylvania. They are some good people. So we'll see you next week. Have a good week, everybody.